When we think about horror films, we often think about it as a genre that exposes things about government, power, corruption, etc. But I don't believe that the horror films intend to actually wake us up and push us towards some kind of change. Nowadays, people, including myself, are surrounded by media, whether it be our phones, our iPads, our computers, other people's phones, the digital ads in the subway. We are consuming media constantly. I believe that horror films have become a culturally safe space where audiences like myself and my peers can go to the movies and watch a movie that disturbs us, whether the movie has themes about disposability, cloning, replacement, racism, systemic violence, etc. Audiences have the choice to get up and leave the movie theater if they want to. In the same way, I can finish the whole movie and never think about these themes again, even if these themes occur in real life and we experience it on a daily basis. We're able to acknowledge these problems and recognize them and feel like we emotionally acknowledge these problems and have the freedom to just leave. These films let us recognize the ideas, emotionally process them, and then feel like we really did acknowledge these issues by watching the film. I'm interested in looking at how this applies to the movies Gattaca, They Live, and They Clone Tyrone, while also applying the ideas from Berlant, Barthes, and Baudrillard. They Live is entirely built around the idea of revelation. The sunglasses function as a signifier of the truth. Once you put them on, you can unsee what's going on, and you see the truth, but that doesn't necessarily change the system itself. These structures stay intact, and moments of violence, such as the homeless raid, feel natural, going along with Barth's idea of domination feeling inevitable. What's interesting about this weirdly long fight is that the fight between Frank and John isn't even about overthrowing the government or fighting back about what's going on around them. It's simply about John wanting Frank to see the truth. And it seems as though this really long fight refers to the fact that Frank maybe doesn't want to see the truth. This is quite literally the definition of cruel optimism. Frank does not want to see the truth or know the truth because he knows that this will not make his life easier and it will not feed his kids. Frank remains attached to a possibly harmful world because at that moment he didn't know what was actually going on. But he remains attached to this world because that means survival. This world is the one that he's surviving in. Even when Frank actually helps John, it doesn't protect him. It actually puts him in more danger and does not help him feed his kids. Awareness doesn't dismantle the system, it simply exposes it. While They Live dramatizes this idea of revelation, Gattaca does it in a weird way, in the sense that disposability is not a secret in Gattaca. It's common sense, it's known to all the characters in the film, it's normal. Control is not hidden, therefore there is nothing else to reveal. Control is openly organized through genetic data that has affected Vincent from the moment he was born. His father saved his own name for his next son, who was of value based on his genetics.
The name for the certificate? Anton?
No, Vincent Anton. Yeah, that's a good name.
That's how my brother Anton came into the world. A son my father considered worthy of his name.
DNA becomes the signifier of human worth. Every time Vincent submits blood or urine to verify his identity, this reminds us that genetic data matters more than who he actually is as a person or what he's actually capable of. Scenes are very open and seem almost like a procedure, which it quite literally is, which shows us that this is normal, this is a society, and this is simply how it works. It goes along with Barth's ideas because this genetic hierarchy seems natural. It's presented as something natural and normal. The concept of inequality becomes common sense. He doesn't seem to be motivated by any sort of confusion or anger or anything. He just accepts that this is reality and he's not going to change the reality. He's just going to integrate himself into that reality. This is considered another form of cruel optimism because endurance replaces resistance in this sense. Gattaca truly presents the idea of disposability as something that we can recognize and not solve because the main character doesn't solve it himself. The main character, who is truly the victim of this system, doesn't necessarily try to change the system at all. So what does that say to audiences about change or standing up, etc. They clone Tyrone, the idea of revelation is immediately absorbed into repetition. Fontaine dies multiple times throughout the movie, which shows us that disposability isn't necessarily an interruption in this system because it's integrated into the system itself. In this case, the simulator would be the system behind the cloning and management of Black lives, and the simulated are the Black people who think that this is their reality, that these are their friends, these are their people, this is their neighborhood, and everything is normal. This is quite literally Baudrillard's simulation at work. What makes this movie really interesting in terms of the system itself is the familiarity behind the whole thing. Viewers, we're familiar with Black people, Black culture, and that also comes with an understanding of things like systemic racism. The tools of control, for example, the fried chicken, the hair products, the music, the drugs, etc. These are familiar things to us. This film allows for viewers to watch and feel for the characters, for the community, and for the culture. But ultimately, disposability in this movie is represented in a way where you can acknowledge these ideas and ultimately move on, because the movie itself is processed without any sort of resolution.
I have never seen anything like this before.
Hold up.
Once again, clones here outside of J-Bo's pawn shop.
That's you, Tyrone.
These films, we see disposability presented in similar ways: revelation, normalization, and repetition. Horror has become a space where audiences can acknowledge these ideas and feel like that is enough. And that might be the most horrifying part of all of these movies.